Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee on 26th of January, 9:22 in the morning. A little nippy, 59 degrees. Well, it's actually warming up. Chief's outside. Chief's still got some morning symptoms. I couldn't figure out what's going on. He barks all the time. And he seems he wants to not be in his room. He wants to go outside. When I put him next to me outside, which he always liked, then I would pet him and he would bark. So I'd keep petting him. Now, if I pet him, he barks and growls and snaps. He doesn't want to sit near me. This is something with Yafa passing, and he seems to not understand, and he's blaming me. He's mad at me. So please pray that he gets his head straight, stops blaming me, and stops mourning, and pray for healing. I'm really worried about him. I was so concerned, and I prayed to the Lord, to either heal him or, stop the mourning or take him because there's something really wrong. And I told the Lord, I really don't know what's going on, so I just leave it to you. And I believe what he showed me is that he's mourning, he's angry, and he's not debilitated or anything like that. I thought he was in pain, but when a dog's in pain, they usually don't bark incessantly without stopping, So, he sometimes he whimpers, I think when I put him next to me, he whimpers. I don't know what the deal is with him. He's going through a bad phase here. He was with her every day, day and night, for I don't know 8 years or something, 9 years even. I don't know, and he's very upset. So please pray, keep the prayers going. It distresses me greatly, and I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to cover some good stuff today. I'm going to give you a big shopping list of all the things Trump's done, a big list, and the enemies he's making, and what he's doing to help the American economy, which is going to work if time allows, and it's very substantial. And I'm beginning to get signs of an attack on Iran coming rather rapidly. Netanyahu's going to the White House in the first half of February. We don't have a date. I imagine there is a date, but we don't have it yet. And there may not be a firm date yet. I don't know. Probably there is. And America just in the last few days moved 9 aerial tanker planes to, I think they're in Germany now. And they might be in Poland. I'm not sure anymore. But I'm getting the idea that they're getting ready for a strike on Iran. Probably there's already aerial refueling tankers here. So it's probably going to be to help Israel, and probably Israel's going to strike. And it's probably going to just be the nuclear facilities and probably radar and weapons factories. It's probably going to be a massive thing. Trump just gave us, I don't know if they arrived yet. What's today? Sunday. They'll probably be arriving by, I guess, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. 1,800 2,000-pound bombs. Now, these are smaller bunker busters, but that's what the Israeli jets can carry. They can't carry the big, heavy ones. Very few nations have that capability. America does. I'm not sure who else does, if anybody. But we can carry several of those on a plane. And if you drop enough of them, they create a lot of damage. But can they go down 300 feet or more? I don't think so. I don't know what's going on. So it might be that America is going to join in. I would think to get the nukes, the nuclear facilities, I should say, would require at least the series of these 5,000-pound bunker busters and they've got also 30,000-pound bunker busters. So I imagine that Israel would have a hard time getting those, but Israel could knock out the radar and the anti-aircraft systems protecting those if they ever rebuilt them, which I do not know. There's been enough time where they might have gotten more built or put up or something. I don't know. Move them around from another place where they weren't destroyed. I don't know. So Israel could likely do that, and then America, when everything is safe, probably the B-52s, which there's probably a few in the area, or we may see more get moved in, I don't know, would go and strike the nuclear facilities. So it would be kind of a joint effort, you know. I have not heard anything about Trump pulling the American warships out of the Middle East. So we'll get into this. It's pretty interesting. I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream and then put my posts up and we'll get going. To go into the live stream, we got our live stream running. I love these guys that hate Israel. You know, it puts up USS Liberty, right? Well, you know, this guy probably goes to church and, you know, rejects Israel. You know, I don't know. I don't even pay attention to it. What did that happen 50, 60 years ago? Another one says, I don't look at the chat. Well, they also say that I've heard them say it's not a live stream, it's a video, and then they say it's artificial intelligence. I think I've heard that. I think I did. I don't know. It's, you can't listen to them. You can't pay attention to them, you know. I'll be a minute or two here while people are coming in. And I'll put my email address up and we'll get going. Okay. Being Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 There would be no good reason to bring refueling tankers to Poland. I can't remember this, but I don't think they're in Poland. I know they landed in Germany for sure. Did they go somewhere else? I think it was Germany. You don't need refueling tankers in Poland because they're next to Ukraine, so I don't understand why that would happen. Ramstein is probably where they put them. So I'm going to definitely spend a lot of time on the two witnesses appearing, show you where and when they appear in your Bible, and in Malachi 3 and 4, and we're going to talk about how will Trump react to them. That's an interesting topic, isn't it? Oh yeah. And the government of Israel and Judaism at large. Judaism is not just Israel, because there's way more Jews, not counting the 10 West tribes around the world than there are in Israel. Okay? America alone has almost as many as Israel has Jews. Okay? And then you got all the other countries, and I'm not even talking lost tribes here. Okay? All right, so we're going to get into this. Okay? But let me go through the current events, because Yeshua says we're supposed to watch, and I don't think he meant we should go outside and watch the grass grow. You know, this is what we're supposed to be doing, and that's what I'm trying to do. Okay? So we get prepared, and we are prepared, and we get, more and more insights, and we try to crunch it down as to where we're at, and we're close. Believe me, we're close. All right, so let me get my notes and we'll get into it. It's a mountain of stuff with this guy. Let me see what other stuff. Oh, prayer requests for SL, Sierra Lima, SL, Sierra Lima, SL. Prayer for healing, mental, I guess. This person's in a psych hospital. And the family is very concerned because they're giving them all kinds of psych meds. I think it's mandatory, pretty much, I think. So I think if you don't take them, I don't know what they do. But I mean, sometimes they call it chemical restraints. In the old days, they would tie you to the bed, So anyway, pray for SL for healing from psychiatric disorder, I guess we could call it. Okay? That's the only prayer request I got right now from other people. Trump said Israel should stay in southern Lebanon. Astounding. But he said it, and he means it. He elaborated, and he correctly elaborated, I might add. He didn't, play games and try to hype it or anything. He was accurate. The Lebanese army has failed to completely occupy southern Lebanon, which would be Litani River to the Israeli border, nor have they gotten rid of the weapons, nor have they done anything about Hezbollah trying to reassert themselves there or anything like that. So Israel was supposed to leave after the 60 days, and I think the 60 days is today, 26th, so that's over, and then we're still there, and we're not leaving. It's another 30-day extension. In which case, if they don't do their job, the army of Lebanon will probably continue to stay there. Trump's not talking about us in the Golan Heights in Syria. I don't hear anything about that. So he's obviously not taking an issue with that. Trump doesn't talk very much about Syria, does he? No. Okay. The hostages were again released yesterday, 4 female soldiers. There was supposed to be another hostage release that wasn't completed, and Israel's holding Hamas in breach of the ceasefire agreement, and they're not bombing them again. We're not doing that. We're saying that the people living, I guess, in mid and south Gaza cannot return to the north at this time because of the breach by Hamas. we're also putting pressure on them in a severe way, well, not severe, in a strong way, to give us the names of the hostages that are alive and who's dead. This has not yet happened. Do I think it'll happen? I'm unsure. It's going to depend on how many living hostages there really are. If they're running out of hostages, they may not reveal it. We'll have to see. Predicting this is very difficult. We just got to watch. This bothers Hamas because it makes them look weak. It makes them look like Israel's in control. And they probably will comply. We'll have to see. Next week, there's more hostage release scheduled. There's a new fire near San Diego called, I think, the Hughes, Houghes or something. As of about 24 hours ago, or even more now, maybe 30 hours, 6,000 acres were burned. This is a new fire that broke out. And I think it's still not close to the Mexican border. I think there's a scripture about the walls getting burned, if I remember correctly, where they get knocked down and stuff. So will this fire spread down there and start burning the walls or something? I don't know. First, it would have to go through San Diego, and then it would have to go to San Ysidro. And we're not there yet. Maybe we'll get there. I don't know. We got to wait and watch. If the fire gets into San Diego, it's super significant. Now, they did have rain this weekend. And it did help. The firefighters got a boost from the rain. They really did. But now there's a new problem that is developing, that the firefighters are not really equipped to prevent, nor is any other agency or anyone else. And that these fires left ash, and they say it's toxic. And the rain is going to create runoff. Okay, because the rain got, the fire got rid of all the vegetation that would suck up the rain. So they're going to get runoff with toxic ash. And that could hurt other land that was not burned, and it could get into the water supply and the ground and everything else. So this could be an issue and a problem. Is it a serious problem now? No, but they're talking about it as if it's imminent. So there's something bad brewing with this. More than that, I don't think we know, because I'm not sure they really have a good handle on what it is that's going to happen yet. But they're getting on top of the fires, but then they got this new fire. It's creeping closer and closer to San Diego, and there's several, I think 2 big military installations in San Diego area. And if the fire gets to them, it could impact the defense of America in that region. It hasn't happened yet. We got to see what happens. I don't know. A lot of these bases were around and built up in World War II. And a lot of these bases are made out of a lot of wood and stuff like that, so they're going to burn. in a lot of the buildings, you know. So we got to see. I believe this fire is from the Lord, and I think it's the beginning of what we read in Jeremiah. I will kindle fires in and about her cities. This is the start of it, I think. I mean, I look at the timing and all the other events, and I'm pretty sure that's what this is. It looks like it was orchestrated by God. With the winds, the dry conditions, the stupid governor, fire hydrants running dry, and all of this stuff. Trump said he's going to come to the aid of the victims of the fire, and he may very well. I don't know. We'll see what he does. Probably do something significant. Now, this is something that it's so sad how asleep Americans are. One day before Biden left office, he appeared in some Mason temple and was given the status of a masterful Mason. And I understand that's a 33-degree Mason by another name. Okay? That's the president. And they did it while he was still president. People don't wake up. Stories all over the internet if you want to follow it, pictures and everything. It's coming out now from Marco Rubio, Secretary of State in America, that the Taliban, which are in Afghanistan, are still holding American hostages. Nobody has a count yet. But they might, but they didn't talk. Rubio said that he was going to put a massive bounty on the heads of the Taliban over this issue. He said it would be greater than what they put on bin Laden's head. Oh, they'll do it. Now we're going to be talking right now about Trump building a massive collection of enemies, wholesale quantities. This is going to get the Taliban against America in a big way. It's not a targeted assassination, but it's related to it, isn't it? And they're not the type of people to take it laying down. These are fanatic terrorists, Muslims, and they are vindictive. They might start trying to ally themselves with other terrorist type groups. They do not get along with Iran at all. So that would kind of leave them getting into HTS, the guys running Syria, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS, former people that got a new paint job. It's the same car, just got a new paint job, so it looks different. But it's not a different car, same car. And they could make trouble. I can tell you from what I know about them is they're not going to just take it laying down. There's not a lot they're going to be able to do. They can't storm America or anything like that, but they could be a problem. I would say at this point in time, Trump has zero intentions of attacking Afghanistan. Joe Biden added 88,000 people to the IRS. Trump announced he's going to lay off all 88,000. Is this a good thing for we the people of America? Very much so. Trump is moving to get rid of the IRS and the Federal Reserve because they've got control over him. Basically the Federal Reserve, the IRS not so much. Trump said that he might, instead of laying them off, he's going to consider moving some of them down to the border. Now, we need to talk about this. He's not going to take the CPAs and the accountants and the computer operators and move them to the border. What for? The IRS has about 2,000 special agents. These are the gun and badge guys. I believe they have them in two divisions. They used to, one was called intelligence and the other was just IRS. And they might have merged them into one. In my day, they used to have another division called inspection. And the guys, which were the equivalent of a special agent, had credentials and a badge, and the badge said inspector, which is quite British. That unit I don't think exists anymore. They were internal security. They would investigate IRS people doing bad things, breaking rules and regulations, or saying they're going out to interview somebody and go find a park with trees and take a nap under the trees or something, They do encounter instances of corruption. It's not all that great. So, the 2,000 special agents are trained like any special agent in any federal agency. I think they still do it at Glencoe. And I think it's about 12 weeks or something. And then from there, they go on to another school that the IRS would run for usually 4 or 6 weeks. And they learn how to be a special agent for the IRS specifically, where the basic course is general. Shooting, surveillance, counter-surveillance, felony car stops, raids, dissemination of classified information, how to deal with classified information, what the other agencies of the federal government do in law enforcement, how to prep for search warrants, getting warrants from the court, prosecutors and whatever, and how the courts work, how the prison system works, um, radio communications, wiretaps, surveillance, all of this stuff, the general tools of the trade. Then they would go to a special school the IRS runs and teach them how to apply that to the IRS or any other agency. So they are trained enough. You could put them at the border, you know. Now they're running around in the woods, not the woods, in the desert with dangerous drug cartels. And would they be correctly equipped to do this? No. No. Would they have a likelihood of getting killed? Yes. Out at night in the desert with drug cartels and desperados armed with full auto, carrying drugs, contraband, weapons, who knows what, coming in groups, have nothing to lose, shoot at you. Worst case, run back to Mexico. These are the kind of federal agents that are going into warehouses, offices, universities, phone companies, banks, stockbrokers, car dealers, boat dealers, real estate transactions, They're not gangbusters, okay? I think you would see a ton of them apply to other agencies immediately. It's not hard to transfer from one agency to another. So they don't have to run you back through Glencoe again. They just put you through their little course for 4 or 6 weeks. Or sometimes they won't even do that. They'll just take them in. And give them credit for their prior job experience and just put them under an agent for 6 months or something to figure out how it works. That's how I think they do it. Actually, they have 2,100 special agents. Now, I don't know how many special agents buy and hide it out of that 88,000. Probably at least hundreds. So, there you go. No, they did bring the refueling, wait. No, the refueling tankers are in Germany. This is what happened. Several C-17 cargo planes, not refueling tankers, came from America to Israel, landed in Israel, and then they flew to Poland. Now, this is the thought of what happened. Israel gave Ukraine Russian weapons that they grabbed in Syria, and possibly by the border with Lebanon, or possibly they got some of these out of Lebanon also. And why would Netanyahu do this? Because he's vindictive. He's incensed that Russia was giving weapons to the Houthis and Hezbollah and Bashar Assad, and probably Iraq. And he wants to teach Putin a lesson So he's sending Putin's own weapons back to Ukraine to be used against Putin's soldiers. You know, you have to give credit where credit is due. And this is a really devious idea that Netanyahu had that's probably going to have an impact. So Putin's going to probably just shrug it off. I don't think that many weapons. But it's not going to make Putin feel nicer towards Israel and Netanyahu, is it? Yes, Trump is talking about sending Palestinian civilians, not Hamas, to Egypt or Jordan on what he's calling a temporary basis, which would probably be years. They'll never come back, you know. I have no idea if this idea will get legs. But Netanyahu would probably go for it. That's not the issue. But I don't think Hamas is going to want this at all. So it's going to have a tremendous amount of resistance. It's not going to just be something that is going to happen. And there's nothing that anybody could do about it. They're not going to want it. They're not going to want this. No. But the other side of the coin is about 90% of their houses are damaged or destroyed. So they're living in tents where the houses used to be. So there's motivation, you know. How many of them would want to leave? Who the heck knows? Can Hamas stop them from leaving? Oh no. Troops will go in. No. They wouldn't be able to stop them. No. How would they get them there? By bus. He needs the permission of Sisi in Egypt and the King of Jordan. They don't want these Palestinians. They're a threat. So I don't know how it'll play out. We also heard talk of putting them in Indonesia. So obviously Trump is shopping for a place with Netanyahu to put them. Turkey's not going to take them. Syria is maybe something that could come to pass. But I don't think Israel wants him in Syria because they'll start trying to rise up against Israel. So I don't think that would happen. Iraq, I don't see where that fits. I don't see that one. Iran, never happened. Maybe, but I doubt it. I don't think so. Europe, I don't think so. I think Europe's finished with this kind of immigration. They need to put them in a Muslim nation that speaks the same language that will deal with them with an iron hand if they start trying to rise up. Robbery, rape, assault, attacks, they'll be slammed by the government. They're talking it might take up to a year to just get the debris out of Gaza. There's belly aching about the humanitarian aid because a massive amount is being brought in. And Hamas is controlling it, and they're taking what they need for their own soldiers and their families, and what's left is they're putting it into the stores that I imagine are owned by Hamas relatives or directly or whatever. And they sell it to the stores at high prices, who in turn sell it to the people at even higher prices. Trump will eventually realize that if he wants to do humanitarian aid, somebody's got to curtail Hamas on confiscating the humanitarian aid. Or find a way to distribute it differently. I don't know how to do that. But that's an ongoing problem that's not being resolved anytime soon that I'm aware of. I'm sure Trump's aware of it, but I think he's got, let's say, bigger fish to fry right now. Trump is dead serious on putting 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Let me tell you. He told Canada, I listened to this video, he told Canada that if you become a 51st state, or maybe a 52nd state with Greenland, who knows, you know, you won't have to pay the taxes will be much less. Trump is not backing off from that. I am not sure how many people in Canada think that's a good idea, but that number could fluctuate greatly after he puts a 25% tax on them. So all Canadian goods coming into America have a 25% tariff, which you, the taxpayer, will be paying, by the way. It makes the amount of goods sold into America from Canada diminish. Israel, it's not in the news much, but you need to remember this. It's called the Iron Beam. It's our laser defense system that could rapidly shoot very powerful laser beams. It's a mobile item, so it's like put on a truck bed. Has its own power generator. I understand the cost to shoot a missile down is about $1 in electricity. Probably the fuel to run the generator. Right now, the Iron Dome costs $100,000 a missile, and we shoot 2 at a time. So instead of spending $2,000 to take down a drone or a missile, we would probably spend, they'd shoot it more than one, we'd probably spend as much as $5 or $7. And basically could shoot these things all day long. The prototype was working effectively and it's in production. Nobody's telling us when they're going to be out on the battlefield. I would expect Netanyahu is doing all he can to get these things produced quickly. But they got to be careful. It's a precision instrument. It's got to be done right. It probably involves clean rooms and all sorts of sophisticated manufacturing. It's probably rather complicated. If, let's say, we had 10 of them and we had trouble with Lebanon, well, the 10 would probably protect Israel from Lebanon tremendously. And if you're talking Gaza, you might need 6 or 8, I don't know. You know. If we had 24 of them, we could sufficiently protect Israel, I think. See, they don't run out of missiles. The Iron Beam platform usually has 6 or maybe 8 missiles. I think it's 6. So they could do 3 shots. 2 at a time go. Don't for 1 minute think Trump doesn't want these for America. Trump would either buy, hundreds of these, or they would be great to put at the Mexico border, just in case. So he would either buy hundreds of those, or more than likely he'd make a joint venture with Israel to produce them in America. And this already may have happened, I don't know. But they want them. See, Israel needs to produce them as quick as possible for their own use first. And maybe after Israel has 35 or 40 or 50 of them, they would start selling them. I don't know how many million they're going to get for this thing. Probably 10 to 25 million to throw. It has basically a massive supply of ammunition, because the laser probably can shoot 25 or 50,000 times or more before you got to change something. And then we're also modifying it for boats. I think we have one on a boat already. We might be able to make a short-range version that maybe goes 1 or 2 miles for tanks. See, tanks are generally not threatened by a surface-to-surface missile because it can't tag a tank. A tank's moving. It could be 35, 45 miles an hour. So the real threat to the tank would be a soldier firing an anti-tank weapon at it. Okay. Which is short range. It's going to be less than 5 miles normally. Probably about 1 or 2 miles. So they could use the radar on the tank that ordinarily picks up the incoming projectile, and we shoot either this big shotgun type device at it to shred it, or another missile, a little missile, something maybe like this. More of a rocket. The same radar in the tank would be used to guide the laser. There's also a threat of an aircraft or a helicopter mounted missile firing at a tank. But again, that would be short range. They're not going to fire from 35 miles away or anything like that. So the point of the short range discourse is that it wouldn't need to be as large of a laser In other words, it wouldn't need to have that big generator. It could be a small generator. It wouldn't need that much electrical power, but it might to generate the beam. I don't know. So it might not be highly feasible to put it on a tank, but a ship could run a big generator. There's no problem there. So I'm sure Israel's working with America on this device, one way or another. Trump pardoned abortion activists that got in trouble with the law. And Trump is taking a very anti-abortion posture. You know, this is, I would agree with this, but this is pitting Trump against a massive amount of Americans. This is my body, I do with it as I want. If I want to kill my baby, who are you to stop me? This kind of thing. And he's collecting enemies wholesale. I'll keep going. Trump officially made it that there's only two sexes. The ex-passport thing, where you don't define yourself as a male or a female, you have an X, which means I don't know what, but you're not a male or a female. Well, Trump said that's not the case anymore in America. There are no such passports anymore. I don't think he rescinded the ones floating around out there. He might, but that's a big job. So he's creating a lot of enemies like that. Eight years of Obama and 4 years of Biden. These people have dedicated their lives into their sexual, policies. Their whole lifestyle is built on it, and now it's being shattered. I believe Trump's going after transsexuals, and the military is getting them out. See, Trump is really rocking the boat. You must be aware of this. Okay? Trump is very pro-Israel compared to Obama and Biden. And he's quite anti-terrorist of any genre. You could be an atheist terrorist, he's against you. So, he's against that. And that's making enemies. But he pretty much has to go down that road. He's anti-IRS, anti-Federal Reserve. That's more enemies. He's putting sanctions on China, Mexico, Canada, more on Russia, more on China. He's putting a 10% tariff on China. He didn't put him on 25%. He said that any nation that goes into the BRICS, this is his latest comment, it was very interesting. He said they would have at least, he used those words, at least 100% tariff on their goods being sold in America. Okay? So a country in BRICS, let's say they sell a car for $30,000. In America, it's $60,000. Who's going to buy it? Nobody. So Trump is killing the market for these BRIC members to sell things to America. He said at least 100%. Well, I don't think he needs to up it any more than that, but he's obviously leaving room for that if he wants to really punish somebody and go up to 200%, he can do it. So the BRICS countries have to think pretty deeply if they want to give up America as a market or not. Because their competition is going to wipe them out. You know, they can't maintain competitiveness at 100% tariff unless they have some unique, weird product that you can't get anywhere else, which is unlikely. So, you know, if Switzerland joined BRICS, Swiss watches would double in price. Swiss chocolate would double in price. Okay? Now, if they joined China, well, they sell a massive amount of things, and they'll get hit with the 100% tariff too. It's pretty heavy duty. It's going to make a lot of international enemies immediately. It's already done that. He's already there. His cryptocurrency is basically something he's going to go for slowly. But he wants to undermine the Federal Reserve and the IRS first. The IRS is the collection agency for the Federal Reserve. So the cryptocurrency, forget about it being anonymous. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be highly traceable. You'll be able to use your banks with it, credit cards, everything else. Probably be able to use your phone and do direct digital currency payments to stores and stuff like that. But it's all trackable. So he's probably moving away from a paper currency to something where he could water it down more than ever. It's just a virtual currency. It doesn't exist in reality. Neither does the money anymore because it's no longer silver or gold backed. But he gets rid of the paper and now it's traceable. So it will curtail a lot of criminal and terrorist activity for sure. Why not? I mean, it would. It would also not bother the American public. When you look at this, the brilliance, this guy has a brain, a big brain. The brilliance of this is there because he gets rid of the IRS. Now, which is his intention for sure. And when you get rid of the IRS, who cares about your transactions being traced? Nobody except the criminal. Why would you care? Nobody's going to knock on your door and say, we're taking your house and your car away, you owe us money. That's all in the past. Doesn't happen anymore. So what do you care? You don't. You wouldn't care. Why care? He's pretty bright. And he can manufacture as much digital currency as he wants to without the Federal Reserve, without paying the Federal Reserve interest for creating money. They create this agency in 1913 when most of Congress is on vacation over Christmas, and they appoint owners, private people, who supposedly are anonymous and own this stinking Federal Reserve. It's a private entity. And they keep the profits from the Federal Reserve without having to pay tax on it. And they're probably making, trillions of dollars. So Trump is irked beyond belief over this and wants to get rid of it. So when he creates now money with the Federal Reserve, to basically tell the Federal Reserve, create another $500 billion, then they pay interest to the Federal Reserve on the $500 billion. With digital currency, he pays interest to nobody. He just makes the money. You got it? So what does that do to the national debt? Can Trump just default on the Federal Reserve debt? Sure he can. What are they going to do? What would that do to the national debt? Is that something Trump's probably going to do? Sure. But he wants to weaken the Federal Reserve first, and then he'll educate people. With my digital currency, I make the money supply, and we don't pay anybody interest on it. Do you like it better that we do it with the Federal Reserve, so you have to support these jackasses that don't pay any taxes on their income? That's in the trillions. He is brilliant, okay? That's brilliant. I mean, really, it's brilliant to combine the two concepts, whack out the IRS, whack out the Federal Reserve, pop up a digital currency with no income tax. What he'll have is a VAT tax. So every time you go to a store and buy something, you're going to pay a tax. In the past, which this happened under Bush Jr. and Clinton, they both were considering getting rid of the IRS, and they were saying they need 17% VAT tax to do it. I imagine Trump would do it at 10 or 12, maybe 9 even. Okay? No IRS, no forms to keep, no filing. Do you know how happy people are going to be? They'll be so happy to pay 10% tax. So every time they make a purchase with their digital coin wallet on their phone, or they could use the credit cards, that'll probably exist. They pay an extra 10%, but they'll be happy. Now, you're still going to have to pay your state income tax, and if you live in one of the cities like New York City that has a city income tax, you'll have to do it. So, let me explain this to you. If you lived in Connecticut, let's say, right, and you worked in New York City, you have to pay Connecticut state income tax and, of course, federal tax. You have to pay New York state income tax because you work in New York. Forget that, you don't live there. They don't want to hear that. And you have to pay New York City income tax because you live there. So these people, instead of paying federal, Connecticut state, New York state, and New York City 4 taxes, are now paying 10, 12% when they go to the store and buy something. They're as happy as a pig in stink. And they don't have to hire accountants. Will the accountants dry up and go away? Probably. But there's still a need for accountants. But I would say probably 60, 70% of them work with taxes, and they would be finished. Now, corporations don't have to have a team of bookkeepers and accountants to meet the demands of the IRS, but they need accountants to file financial statements with banks for lines of credit, loans, and for the stock market, the SEC, and all that other stuff. So they're still going to have accountants, but much less. What about tax attorneys? Well, probably within 2 years, 90% of them would be out of work or having to do other kinds of law. Brilliant what he's doing, though. It really is. Then you got him annexing the Panama Canal, more enemies. Greenland, not so many enemies. In Canada, more enemies. He's not annexing the Panama Canal, he's reclaiming it. But remember, America never built the new Panama Canal, the big one that carries the big ships. But he's apparently going to take that anyway. And America did invade Panama when Noriega was there around 1990 something or the late 80s, I don't remember. He invaded it, and it took about maybe 24 hours, 36 hours. It's even easier now. Noriega had not a real serious military, But he had a military, helicopters, planes, tanks, armored personnel carriers, and a lot of them were trained by the American military, and they caved very quickly. It was over, I would say maximum 2 days. Maybe they had some mop-up going on for 3 or 4 days after that, but it was over fast. It wouldn't even be that long because there's no military in Panama, just the police department. So they got some Uzis, M16s, 9mm pistols, and that's it. It's a joke. He'd send 5,000 expeditionary Marines with air support and helicopter support. They would go to the capital if the president and the Congress was still there. They would disband them or arrest them or house arrest them. I don't know what they would do. Probably arrest them. It would take a month to smooth it down, but that would be about it. They could turn to China or Russia for help, but I doubt they'll get it. He's also looking to put sanctions on Venezuela, probably Cuba, more on Russia and all that. So that's more enemies. More enemies on the way. The immigration deportation has begun. The guy's really doing it. I don't have an up-to-the-date count, but I imagine he's probably up to 700, 800, 900 illegals. Mexico seems to be saying they're going to take the deportees back. I don't know. I'm waiting to see something pop up on the news about that. Trump's going to do the carry concealed weapons reciprocity in all 50 states. And that might be all 52 states, Greenland and Canada. And that's going to make a lot of enemies for Trump in the home front. Yeah, it will. Especially in the left wing. Trump's enemies nationally and internationally are growing by the day. You have to be aware of that. In my opinion, his ideas are pretty brilliant, but he's putting them all together at the same time, and that's not so brilliant. He's giving aid to Egypt so he can have Egypt help him by using the Suez Canal with sanctions. So when he puts sanctions on a country, and they try to break sanctions by moving goods on ships, and they use the Suez Canal, which takes you from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean and vice versa. Egypt will just say, you're on the sanction list, we can't let your ships pass. So any ship that originated, regardless of where it's flagged, although that's also a consideration, but any ship that originated or disembarked or unloaded at that country is not going to be able to go through the Suez Canal. And he'll do the same thing with the Panama Canal. And this puts a substantial increase in the bite So Trump is again being brilliant. If you were going to accuse Trump of something, accuse him of being brilliant. But I also think he's misdirected. See, this anti-immigration, illegal immigration he's doing, like the anchor babies is finished and stuff like that, is rising up a lot of enemies inside America. when you add all this stuff up, his enemies with the abortion, and there's only two sexes, and the CCW, and anti-illegals, and deportation, and all this stuff, and new illegals can't come in, and the list keeps growing. It is huge. Trump did not win 80% of the voters. What did he get? 51, 52, 53. He got in a margin. So there's a tremendously large amount of people that are really not happy about Trump. Well, most of you are probably happy, but he's not. They're not. The soldiers that Trump sent down to the border include mountain brigades, which they're trained and used to fighting in mountainous regions, which Mexico has a lot of mountains. And this makes me think that Trump is moving in the direction of border incursions. In other words, a platoon of these guys would probably air support from helicopters, maybe jets. Will start chasing cartels into Mexico territory. And if they see cartels and other illegal type characters inside Mexico near the border, they may just go in and get them. This will irritate Mexico, but what are they going to do? Go get their F-35s and bomb America? Gee, they can't do that. What will happen is America, with the military picking off the cartels at the border, and even worse if they go into Mexico, is going to cause the Mexican cartel members in America to become terrorists against the American people and the governments. When you join a cartel, they don't sit there and say, well, we need people to create chaos in America, attack law enforcement, military, government, and civilians. Do I have any volunteers? No. They dictate to them, and if you don't do it, they'll kill you. And they may kill your family if you run away. If you let them just kill you, no, I'm not going to do it, kill me, they'll just kill you. But if you run, they go after your family. And they know who your family are. They usually collect pictures, have a file on them. That's how they cut down people rolling over on them if they get arrested and stuff like that. Now, the Mexican cartels just recently turned over to America El Chapo's son and one other high-profile target from the cartels. They turned them over to America in the last 2 days or so. It's not out in the news that much, but they did. And that was the cartel throwing bones at Trump and saying, come on, don't invade us. And it probably worked to some decent extent with Trump. He probably figures, well, they're getting the message, so why the heck do we have to go invade? But, maybe he's thinking on making Mexico a state, is he just sends 3,000 or 4,000 FBI agents down there with 15,000 or 20,000 soldiers, and they just go grab all the cartels and put them in jail. Or deport them out of Mexico, or kill them, or whatever. But the cartels down there, I don't know how many there are. I'm sure it's 250,000 or 500,000. It's a big job. He may still have this in the back of his mind, but he knows the opposition would come from the cartels, pressing the buttons of the government as well. So weaken and mess up the cartels, and then you can annex Mexico. Now we would be at the 53rd state, Greenland, Canada, and Mexico. And that would be appropriate for the Gulf of America. See, yeah, Trump was being a Weisenhower by changing the name, but what else was Trump doing? Trump was sending a signal, we're getting Mexico. The problem with annexing Mexico is the cartel. So let's see how many cartel members they have. Maybe I'm exaggerating it. I don't know. And they got a lot in other countries as well, but that's not inside America. Okay, so I think there's basically three big cartels. No, it's not as high as I thought at all. It's doable, actually. More brilliance from Trump. 175,000 total of all the cartel characters. That's not anywhere near where I thought it is. Out of that 175,000, probably half of them are not competent to fight or do anything. They're big fat slob bosses, running around with whores and a cocaine spoon up their nose, And vicious, they could fight against people that can't defend against them. They could torture people, they could be vicious, they could assassinate. But against police and military that are well equipped, trained units, they can't fight. They can't do that. And they got a lot of young kids that, went to school for the 5th grade maybe. And, they know how to be vicious and how to do things. But, yeah, it would be easy to overrun them. There would be bloodshed. What would Trump do with the Mexican army? Make it the state National Guard so he could control it? I don't know. I think the Pentagon probably got plans, but I don't know. See, this guy is smart. This is a high IQ president that knows how to make money. Let me tell you what happened. Trump read off a list of companies that were investing in America, and he thinks by the end of the week, which is either last week or this week, I couldn't tell, there's going to be a total of $6 or $7 trillion of investments coming into America. Saudi Arabia is going to do someplace between 600 million and $1 trillion, probably $1 trillion. What is Saudi Arabia going to get in return from Trump? $1 million question. You better believe something. And that something is Saudi Arabia got two thorns in their side right now, and it's not Israel. It's the Houthis in Yemen, and it's Iran. And Saudi Arabia, if they want anything, it would be that. Now, they're making investments in businesses in America. Now, what's that going to do to America? A lot. Well, is America going to go up like a rocket ship? Yes. See, the guy knows how to make money. Yeah, America would prosper if, I don't know how long America has, but not much, but they were prosperous. Why? These investments are going to go to building new businesses and buying existing ones and expanding them. And that means you're going to be constructing physical facilities, maybe a sports arena or a coliseum, maybe an office building, or, things are going to get built. What does that do? Well, it makes a lot of jobs. It also increases the tax base. You know, these people are paying taxes when they get these businesses running. Paying taxes to Trump, to America. Okay? So yeah, it's really gonna do good. And it's gonna make work. A lot of work. So people are not gonna be getting laid off, they're gonna be going to work. More demand for employees, which means they're gonna get better deals. Because when you need painters and most of the painters are working, you can't underpay the guys that need work. You know, they'll just wait for another job. You know, it's going to work in favor of the workers, but the billionaire oligarchs, the friends of Trump, are still going to be the ones buying the islands and the jets and the yachts, not you. Like I said, when the smoke clears, instead of having enough money to, if you lost your job, you could live 2 weeks or a month, which is the case with most people. You'd probably be able to live 3 months or 4 months or something like that. It's not going to be like the 1950s, where people paid off their houses and their cars, and you know, that's not going to be it. You know, it's very easy to live well on retirement if you don't pay rent. Think about it. If your rent is paid, you know, you own your house, you own your cars, you own your furniture, what are you making payments on? The internet, the electric, the water, cable TV, gasoline, new tires, clothing, you know, nothing. But they don't want that anymore, you know. Now, what did Trump just say about Social Security? Well, he hasn't passed it yet, but he intends to up Social Security, all forms, SSI, regular retirement, all of it, um, up to $535 a month. So I would think, let's see, some years ago, the maximum Social Security was $2,500 a month. And not a whole lot of people got that much because they had to make a lot of earnings for a lot of years. And other people, so it went up by inflation. So they're probably by now at about $3,000 a month. So they'll go up to about $3,500 a month. You know, I would think the least somebody's going to get is probably $250, and then to a max of $535. And Trump plans on paying for this with the extra $6 or $7 trillion of investments that I'm rather certain he's going to have in a few days. I don't see him missing there. He knows what he's doing. So that's going to give the tax base a big, big jolt. And he could afford to do this with the Social Security. Is that going to make the Social Security adequate? No. But it's going to make it somewhat better, far from adequate. Okay? I would think people need at least $3,000 a month to retire in America, and probably 4,000 would be more equitable. But there'd be some people getting 3,500, but not a lot. But there'll probably be a lot of people hitting the 3,000. So for some of the people it'll approach or actually be enough for them to be able to manage okay without having to eat cat food for lunch. You know. So there you have it. I mean, he's really going to town, this guy. Do I think he's going to go through with the Social Security? Oh, yeah. It's grossly unfair. This past year, Biden bumped Social Security 2.5%, and food prices alone probably went up 10%. You know. So, I mean, it's rather stupid to what he did. But, you know, he's not here to help. You see, he's got, you know, he's not, hold on a second. 1 second. Okay. Just having a good laugh over this. Okay, so um, Trump is really doing a lot. Okay. But when you look at everything he's doing together with the digital currency, the Federal Reserve, the IRS, and all that, it's pretty brilliant. And now with this building the investments in, he could build up the Social Security, which means the elderly people are going to be in favor of him. Okay. You know, some people they get like $250 bump, others will get $300, $400, $500 bump. They're gonna like that. They're gonna like that. And it's gonna increase his popularity. All right. Trump is thinking of ending FEMA. FEMA is a partially effective agency. It's probably a good idea. Now, this is a good one. Listen to this. Biden pardoned Fauci. Trump took away Fauci's protective services. The states are getting ready to file criminal charges against Fauci. The big question is, why did Fauci need immunity for, a pardon from Biden? Well, obviously something's wrong, right? So the federal pardon doesn't help in a state prosecution because it's, I guess, states' rights. So they're going to prosecute Fauci for probably criminal things. And then Fauci's probably going to roll over and spill the beans on all the corporations and Pfizer and everything else. Imagine this. And Trump will run with it. I'll be right back. Another reason why Trump may very likely hit Iran with or without Israel, or with Israel only, we don't know, is because Iran gives weapons to Russia and just recently signed another like mutual defense pact with Russia. So Iran could be feeding Russia weapons, which will encourage Russia to stay in the war with Ukraine, which Trump wants to shut down. Just another reason. Iran may even send troops to help Russia. So I think I told you Trump sent us the 1,800, 2,000-pound bombs. They'll probably be here this week. Okay. One thing that we did learn from this war starting October 7th is how much America really pushes Israel around. Okay. Let me check the live stream. Someone said Trump's approval rating is over 55%, maybe nearing 60%. I don't know one way or the other. I don't know where you got the numbers from. I don't know how accurate these numbers are from the source that revealed them. I don't know. The BRICS is BRICS. It's a financial trade conglomerate. You could look it up in Google. Well, I respect your opinion when you say Greenland and Canada will never be states, but right now they're not. But if Trump gets his way, they will. I don't know how it'll end. I guess when you say he's on the third marriage, you're talking about Trump. Why is my room backwards from normal? I don't know what frontwards is. It's just the way we set it up. All right. So we'll switch now to Bible, the two witnesses. Now, first I'll do is I'll show you that the two witnesses are going to emerge working openly very, very, very shortly. Now, I know this is not taught by the church. They only teach Revelation 11. In the apocalypse, in the tribulation, the two witnesses will emerge. Well, that's the latter time of their emergence. They're emerging now, very, very shortly, days or weeks. And I'll give you the scriptures, and you draw your own conclusions. Malachi 3. Behold, I will send my messenger, Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me. Well, John the Baptist did that, but he had the spirit of Elijah. He was not Elijah. They said, are you Elijah? He said, no. And Elijah must come and restore all things first. It said, about Yeshua, whom the heaven must receive until the restitution of all things. Psalm 110:1. The Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Well, his enemies are not yet his footstool. Shall prepare the way before me. So before Yeshua returns to earth, whom the heaven must receive until the restitution of all things. I know the church doesn't teach this stuff, but the restitution of all things has not yet happened, and Elijah's got to do that. And he works with Apostle John, the two witnesses. And the Lord whom you seek, that's Adonai, that's a softer form of Lord. People in Israel would call an employer an Adonai or a landlord an Adonai. Okay, it's not Jehovah. Shall suddenly come to his temple. That's the glory of God of Israel. He anointed Solomon's temple by going in with the glory cloud, but he left. He met with Moses and Aaron in the tabernacle over the mercy seat. He did nothing to Zerubbabel's temple that we ever read about. I doubt he did, nor Herod's temple. But he resides in this next temple. And you should read Ezekiel 43 to 48, or maybe even 40 to 48. Read the book of Joel. Read Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11. Read Zechariah 14. This is the great day of the Lord. This is God and God. It's all the same thing. So there is another temple. They don't generally talk about this in the church. Shall suddenly come to his temple, and then it switches and says, even the Malach of the covenant, that's Elijah, the Israelites believe he'll come and teach them Torah. And you'll see that to be the case. Whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and wait a minute, I lost my place. Like a fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Well, this is not going to be just teaching how to put the animal on the grate of the altar. You know, it's teaching the Levites that they have to live a righteous life, which would encompass the Old and the New Testament teachings. Okay? That they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Okay? Then, now this is Elijah that's teaching them this, training them. Then shall the offer. Now, I believe when this happens, the temple is here, but not the glory of God of Israel. We read in Ezekiel 43 the glory of God of Israel going into the temple. Read it for yourself. The whole Ezekiel 40 to 48 pretty much deals with the temple and the anointed prince in the temple and all of this stuff. They don't teach it, but your Bible does, so you got to make a choice. What are you going to listen to, your Bible or some guy that has a building and went to a seminary? Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, as in the former years. Now, this means the blessings of the law come on them. And I will come near unto you to judgment. Well, this, I believe, is probably after they get the offerings correct. This is part of the blessings of the Lord. Now he's going after the bad ones in Israel. And I will come near to the Lord, and near to you in judgment. I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the adulterers, false swearers, those that oppress the hireling at his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of armies. For I am Jehovah, I change not, therefore you sons of Jacob are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers you have gone away from me, from my ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of hosts. But he said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring you all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith Jehovah of hosts, if I will not open you the window of heaven and pour out a blessing, that there shall be room enough to receive. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground. Neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith Jehovah. And all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith Jehovah of armies. Your words have been stout against me, saith Jehovah. Yet you say, what have we spoken so much against thee? You have said, it is vain to serve God, and what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, and that we have walked mournfully before Jehovah of hosts? And now we call the proud happy, yea, they that work wickedness are set up, yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. Then they that feared Jehovah spake often one to another, and Jehovah hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Jehovah, and that thought upon his name. That's the book of life. And they shall be mine, saith Jehovah of armies, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall you return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. Now, there's never been a temple with Elijah around. Okay? Elijah's never pictured with a temple, let alone a temple with the glory of God of Israel, which never happened yet. So this could never have happened yet. And then we go to Malachi 4, and this is going to tie us to Zechariah 12. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble. And the day cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of hosts, that it shall leave neither root nor branch. The leaving neither root nor branch is not the people surrounding Israel, because their relatives left in their own country will probably still be there, to some great extent anyway. This is the ones in Israel, okay, that are proud, that's the Satan bots, do wickedly, stubble, they get burned up. But unto you that fear my name, see, now he's showing the contrast between those that don't fear God and those that fear God, the believers. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son, S-U-N, of righteousness arise with healing in his extremities, not wings. That's where the tzitzit are, the tassels on the borders of the garment, which looks sort of like a robe or a bathrobe looking shape or a tunic. And the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years grabbed that and got healed. And that's where that's coming from. With healing in its extremities, and you shall go forth. And it says, you shall go forth. And what it really says is frolic about like a calf in the stall. Jump out like a calf in the stall. You're going to be like young again. And where does this come from? Well, I can show you. I know the church doesn't teach it, so it's going to be a little shocking to some of you. John 6:40. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I'll raise him up at the last day. Everybody that sees him has everlasting life. That's a believer. Now you go back to Malachi 4, and but unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall frolic about like the calf out of the stall. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. In the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Well, that's your Gog and Magog, but it happens before. So, now we go to Zechariah 12. The burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel, the Lord which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. The land we have now is Judah and Jerusalem. We don't have all of Judah yet. A siege is a surrounding, not an invasion. You have to understand that. And the word is accurate. The translation is accurate, okay? And in that day, it's all that day, the great day. That's the day of redemption. That's when Yeshua appears in the sky, the sign of the Son of Man. Okay? That's when the moon goes to blood and the sun goes dark. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. So they're going to surround Jerusalem and Judah. Now, who would that be? Well, you can put Gaza in there, you can put Lebanon in there, probably put Syria in there, put Jordan in there. Getting the idea? These terrorist groups are defeated, but they're still there. They're not being told to leave. The Houthis are really quite far away, so is Iran. And Iraq has no common border, but they'll probably try to get involved. In that day, saith the Lord, I will smite every horse with astonishment and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And it says governors, but it really means judges. And the judges of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, it's not be my strength, it's the inhabitants of Jerusalem's strength is in the Lord of hosts, their God. So there's a big, revival in Jerusalem, I guess you could say. Now, what's this business with the judges? Well, we got to go to Isaiah 1. What verse? That's a good question. 21? No, 24. Therefore saith Adonai, Jehovah of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of my adversaries and avenge me of my enemies. And I will turn my hand upon thee and purely purge away thy dross and take away all thy tin. Well, that sure sounds like what Elijah was doing in Malachi, doesn't it? Malachi 3. And I will restore thy judges as at the first. Who were the first judges? Moses and Aaron. They were prophets and judges. The two witnesses are prophets. We just read, he called Elijah the prophet. Apostle John was told, you must prophesy again to many nations, tongues, and so forth. So they're prophets. It says so in Revelation 11 as well. To be a judge, you basically got to be a prophet. And since these are the only two prophets coming, yes, people can prophesy as a gift to the Spirit, in the Spirit, but that's not holding the office of a prophet. It's a different thing. So, the judges will be back, and that's them. I will restore thy judges as at the first, which is like Moses and Aaron. Okay? And thy counselors as at the beginning. Well, that's the 70 counselors. And they have that again. Yeshua sent the 70 out also. The city, wait a minute. As at the beginning, afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness. Judgment against the two-thirds that get cut off. Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9. And the destruction of the transgressors and the sinners shall be together, and they that forsake Jehovah shall be consumed, burned up. The ashes under the feet, Malachi 4. For they shall be ashamed of the oaks which you have desired, and shall be confounded for the garden that you have chosen. This is probably them doing demonic rituals over there. All right, so now with the two-thirds getting cut off, let's read what happens to the one-third that don't get cut off, and that sounds exactly like Malachi 3. This is Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, call Haaretz, the land of Israel, saith Jehovah, 2 parts or 2/3 therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Okay? So I will try them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. All right, and that's Zechariah 13. Malachi 3. Speaking of Elijah. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when, let me check that word for coming. It's 9:30. Yeah, it means come. The day he comes, I guess is what it really saying. And who shall stand when he appeareth, for he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap, and he shall sit and refine and purify, refiner and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Okay? You see how it all fits together? So let's go back. I know some of you know this, all right? We'll go back to Zechariah 12. Now we're in verse 6. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour all the, that means burn up really, it's better translation, burn up, all the people round about on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. Okay? So, there'll be a temple, contrary to a lot of churches. You are the temple of the Holy Spirit, not of the glory God of Israel, who is Michael, who was with Moses and Aaron. You are not a temple that has an altar outside where there's sacrifices and stuff like that. So, as I told you for a long time now, when Elijah appears and starts working with the Levites, I don't believe the missiles and the drones and the rockets will be landing. It's rather hard to imagine that happening at the same time. That would kind of mandate Elijah to rise up before the sequencing of events takes place. So I don't think that'll happen. So that basically puts us in the now mode. Hezbollah's on ceasefire, Gaza's on ceasefire. The government of Syria changed. The new government's not doing anything to us. Iraq's not doing anything. Iran's not doing anything. Jordan's not doing anything. Saudi's not doing anything. And the Houthis in Yemen are not doing anything because of the ceasefire in Gaza. So that's why I am of the belief that the time for Elijah to come and start working openly is right about now. I think any day. So what's the reaction going to be? Nobody ever asks you this. I spent a lot of time establishing it's going to happen, and some will believe it and some won't. You know. There's always those that won't believe the scriptures, no matter how many scriptures you come up with. I'm reading the chat for a second. I don't know from second interest. I really don't know anything about that. I avoid the apocryphal books, except I use Second Maccabees chapter 2 to establish Jeremiah hiding the tabernacle in Mount Nebo in a cave and sealing it up until Jehovah shows mercy to Israel, which we see in Zechariah 1 or 2. So that's about ready to pop. But it also tells us in Ezekiel 37 we'll have the tabernacle and the temple, the last 3 verses. So that's why I support 2nd Maccabees chapter 2 on the tabernacle. But I don't teach out of the apocryphal books or the books out of the caves or anything like that. I don't teach from them. I basically use the King James Genesis to Revelation. That's what I use. Okay. So, what would Trump do? Well, Trump would support the two witnesses. Let's dissect that. So now we're going to quickly go to there's only one God, and his name's Jehovah, and his son is Yeshua, the Messiah who rose from the dead. And where does that leave Trump with the Hindus, the Muslims, what's the other one? The Hindu, Muslim, the Buddhists, and the Satanists, and the atheists? Where does it leave the church? These two witnesses, I mean, what's Elijah doing? They're training the Levites to do the offerings. Well, that's against the teachings of the church. They're teaching that Yeshua did away with the law. They ignore Matthew 5:17 and 18. I'll quickly read. They don't teach it. They ignore it like it's not in the Bible. Yet it is in the Bible. If they removed it from the Bible and then people believed them, there would be no sin for that. But since it's in the Bible and people read it in the Bible and then disbelieve it in favor of the church, then the sin falls on the people. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Keep reading. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. All's not fulfilled. Have you seen New Jerusalem lately? Have you seen Yeshua in there? Okay, so all's not been fulfilled. That's nonsense. Okay? As long as there's a heaven and an earth, there's still a law. So that's why there's a temple. Okay? Now, there's probably billions that are going to disbelieve this. When you add up the Catholics, evangelicals, Pentecostals, nominal Christian churches, you get about 2 billion people. I would say maybe 1% believe this, maybe less, maybe more, but not much. Okay? Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the path, and few find it. So, So how is Trump going to agree with Elijah? Eliah in Hebrew, or Eliyahu. How is that going to work? I don't know. I don't see it. Do you? What about Putin and Xi Jinping and Trudeau and Macron and the King of England and I don't know, all the rest of them? Do you think they're going to agree with Elijah and submit to him? I don't. Do I have some evidence that they're not going to work out together? Yes. This is also not taught by the church. Jeremiah 30:11. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Speaking of Israel, as you'll soon see, and this is probably in the next days ahead. Though I make a full end of all heathen nations, Goyim, whither I have scattered thee, so obviously he's talking about Israel favorably above. Yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. Now, if you think that's just one obscure scripture that doesn't appear anywhere else, we'll go to Jeremiah 46, verse 28, which is almost identical. Fear thou not, O Jacob, my servant. So he's talking to Israel. That's the 12 tribes. The 12 sons of Jacob, each of them had a tribe named after him. Saith Jehovah, for I am with thee, for I will make a full end of all heathen nations whither I have driven thee, but I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure, yet will I not leave thee wholly unpunished. So we have it in two places, and I don't know a single church or any preacher on social media that ever talks about it, except self. It's in your Bibles. What can I tell you? So yeah, no, they're not going to be happy with Elijah, but they can't kill him. So what are they going to do? Well, eventually, a lot of them are going to gather together around Israel and lay siege. They're not going to necessarily attack because they're scared. They're going to try to stop people from coming in and going out, staying outside the border of Israel, so they'll think they're safe, but yet they'll think they could still cut people off and goods from coming in and out of Israel. And then the two witnesses burn them up. But when the two witnesses burn them up, they're already the judges of Israel, so they're already running it. So I think after they start appearing, probably the temple, which comes down from heaven, and it's not New Jerusalem. This is the next temple, the house not made with human hands. It comes down from heaven. We're never given instructions how to build it. If you read Ezekiel 43, you'll get clarification. We're just given a general idea of what the temple will look like, so we know how to go in and out. But we don't know the dimensions of a door, or any of the many doors, or what color it is, or what wood or metal it is, or anything. We're not given detailed instructions to build it like Moses was given for the tabernacle. Okay? We are given instructions how to build the altar, because the altar is not part of the temple. It stays outside the temple in the inner court, and we ought to build that. It's rather small and not that hard to do, and then there's an 8-day period of cleansing for the altar. That's clearly in the Bible. So this is what goes on. Okay. So what will Trump do about the two witnesses? Well, we read in Jeremiah 50 and 51 that America will do evil in our sight. So he's mad at Israel. And this is most likely before the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, America. And it's probably one of the last provocations. We do read of people that are uncircumcised, I assume in heart and flesh, going into the next temple, defiling it, and insulting God. And I imagine that's some of the last things the bad ones in Israel do, the government and the others. I don't believe the bad ones in Israel, the 2/3, will be alive when Yeshua appears in the clouds. They could be, because if you're not a believer and you see him, you're not going to receive everlasting life. But I don't think they even get to see any of that. I think they're cut off before. That's the impression I get. It could be they get cut off after, but probably before. And then the two witnesses are in charge of Israel, and they burn up the enemies around. Now, they may be the judges in Israel, and the government doesn't listen to them for a spell, and the Apostle John and Elisha try to reason with them, and then they turn on them, and that's the end. But what about Judaism? Well, Judaism doesn't know from the two witnesses. This is not taught. Yet I just taught it from you entirely out of the Old Testament, didn't I? But they don't teach it. They just don't teach it. They don't want the people to know. So they have no understanding of what this is, but they will repent. A lot of them. We read of that. They mourn for Yeshua's death in the latter verses of Zechariah 12, which never happened when they killed him. All the families of Israel mourn. So this is what you get. And they're going to turn. They're not going to like it. The nations, I mean, they'll attack. They're going to attack. Well, surround us in a siege. That's kind of like what you do when, the Romans would do that, lay siege to a nation or something, or a city, and, surround it. They'd shoot weapons at it, arrows, catapults, spears, stuff like that, while they were surrounding it over the walls of the city, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to get. Now, Jordan, the West Bank, which is Samaria, Judea, this is Jerusalem. West Bank surrounds Jerusalem on three sides. So to surround Jerusalem, they'll have to be in the West Bank. So there's trouble in the West Bank now. There's kind of Iran and her proxies are trying to get something resembling a war going in the West Bank. And they're not doing that great right now, but they keep trying to stir the people up. I mean, we're even using aircraft in the West Bank against them. So they're trying to make another war there to keep us at perpetual war mode. So Saudi Arabia pledged, I think, $600 billion to Trump, and Trump said, "Oh, I'll make them go up to an even trillion." And what does Saudi want in return? Well, they got two problems, Saudi, the Houthis in Yemen and Iran. And the two work hand in hand. The Houthis are buddies with Iran. So they want something. At the minimum, they want a lot of weapons from America. At the maximum, they want the Houthis demolished, which Jeremiah 49 says it'll be a wasteland. It's Edom. Yemen is Edom. So they think it'll, the Bible says it will be a wasteland, so it's going to get demolished. Will America do it? Will Israel do it? I don't know who's going to do it. Somebody's going to do it. Maybe a conglomeration of countries. And they don't want Iran. So if they hit Iran, I think it's stupid to just hit the nuclear facilities. I don't think anybody's hitting the ports and the piers and the oil refineries. I get a feeling they're not going to go that route. I think Israel would hit the radar, some missile launch sites, missile factories, things like this, arms depots. And if they had the wherewithal, they'd hit the nuke sites, but I think they'd have to drop 15 2,000-pound bombs or even more on one nuke facility, which could happen. You drop one, and then 10 seconds or 20 seconds later you drop another, and then another, and you keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper down. Eventually you'll hit 300 feet. Eventually, plus all the shock waves will probably start collapsing the structure down there too. So, or they're just going to soften it up for the Americans to hit. Maybe they'll drop a few 2,000-pound bombs to get through the upper concrete and everything, and then America wouldn't have to drop two 30,000-pound bombs, maybe just one or something. I don't know. But I think it's on the table. I don't think Trump's in any immediate rush for that. And it'll probably be sealed with Netanyahu when he gets over there in the first half of February. And the Saudis will probably normalize relations with Israel. Not that I think it means anything. I don't think it's going to help anybody in Israel except the weapons companies that'll sell weapons to Saudi Arabia. He's not investing any money in Israel. He's not crazy. He's not going to do that. He thinks Israel is going to get wiped out. The Abrahamic Accords are basically worthless. It's just all, hot air. Then Yahweh runs around, oh, we got, we got Abrahamic Accords. So what? What good does it do the average Israeli? It doesn't do anything. I mean, it would let our aircraft fly over Saudi Arabia, reducing distances to some destinations. So what? Big deal, They make these things out to be way more than it's going to be worth. Does second Esdras, no, I don't know about the second, I told you that. Does Trump or any more mortal have to do or agree with Elijah? Doesn't matter. Well, they're going to, if they take action against Elijah, they'll be removed. That's where it matters. We are, okay, very good point. Do we not consider ourselves surrounded already? I used to think we could say that, but Jordan has not surrounded us yet. I mean, look, you can, as an Israeli, I could go show my Israeli passport and just stroll into Jordan. In a siege, that wouldn't be the case, okay? Could I do that in Syria? No. Could I do that in Lebanon? No, I don't think so. In Gaza, of course not. Nor in Saudi Arabia, I don't think. So yeah, you can't really, So you could argue that, but it's the beginning of the siege, but it's not really a siege yet. It's not exactly there. But I'd have to say this, the beginning of it is there. But we're not all there yet. Okay? Jordan hadn't turned on us yet. That'll have to happen. See, all these enemies have been left in place for the Zechariah 12 siege. Okay? So they'll gather at the border of Lebanon. They'll gather at the border of Gaza. They'll gather at the border of Jordan, which is Ammon and Moab. They can't gather at the border of Iraq because we have no border. And they'll gather at the border of Syria, which will, I'm sure, join in. But I think it's their crazy doctrines of the Dajjal, where they're teaching this, a phony Messiah will come to Israel and have a temple or something and tell the Israelites they got to kill all the Muslims and that kind of thing. So there'll be a temple, there'll be a Mount Zion for the temple to be on. God will build it back up again, probably rather quickly. That may very well be the end of the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, because It's just a few hundred feet away from the Pool of Silwan, which was right where the temple was, but the mountain will probably get rid of that stuff and it'll be on the mountain. In Jerusalem, of course. They're going to take action. They're going to try to get rid of it. And the world is not going to be the same once Elijah appears, because he's going to do the whole gamut of miracles. That's how he's going to get the Israelites' attention. That's how Yeshua did it. Listen, what are the Jews going to be like around the world? A lot of them are going to be like the Pharisees and the Sadducees, 2/3, you might say. In Israel, anyway, 2/3, and the other third will submit. That was not the case with Yeshua, that I know of. I don't think the numbers were that high at all. Maybe, I don't think so, though I never get that impression. Okay, so they're going to reject the teachings of Elijah. They're going to try to ridicule him. You know, it's not going to go well for them. See, when Yeshua came, it was not time to restore the kingdom to its glory. Okay? Now it is. So it's going to be way the heck different than anything seen when Yeshua came. It's going to be incredibly different, night and day. Okay, so he'll be raising the dead. He'll be healing the lepers, the blind, all the sick, everything. He'll be doing all of this kind of stuff. There'll be miracles all over the place. I don't know everything he's going to do and everything Apostle John's going to do, but they're going to be massive amounts of miracles. Greater works than these you shall do. It's going to be much bigger and more exciting. That's what's going to happen. No, they're not going to. They're just not going to line up with Elijah. You might find a few countries around the world that do, and you're going to find millions of people that do. Lots of people. And they're going to want to come over to Israel. And it's not until after this happens, after Zechariah 12:6, we burn up the enemies, is the destruction of the daughter of Babylon going to happen, and that's going to bring them into the second Exodus, but the second Exodus won't begin until after Zechariah 12:6, as I understand the scriptures. It'll begin after the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man, and the believers that see him will have everlasting life. That's when it happens. So, any day. So please pray for the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man to be soon. The appearing for the sign of the Son of Man to be soon, and Elijah and Apostle John, that they start working openly, Apostle John and Elijah, very soon. I think this is a great thing to pray for. And then you may be over here with them. You got the true gospel, don't you? How many people have that? Not many. Trump changed the world for common sense. Trump is a very good businessman. He's not a man of God. He's not a man of the Bible. He's a businessman. And yeah, he's going to probably bring $6 or $7 trillion in. And he's in investments, and he's probably going to increase Social Security. He's already denting the illegal aliens, but he's got a monumental task ahead. It would take him all 4 years to really seriously dent all the millions that are here. And he's doing a lot of things, and he's making a lot of people happy, but you got to bear in mind, he's making a massive amount of people unhappy. And when we read Jeremiah 50:51, we read ruler against ruler. That to me I interpret as civil war, because previously it says basically nation against nation. So that's one country fighting another. Ruler against ruler means to me civil war, like governors rising up or counties or mayors or something. Okay, that's what I think. Could it be something to do with Canada or Greenland? I don't know. Not likely. All right. So that's what I got for today. So please pray for me and my wife. Remember, I get a lot of attacks or attempted attacks because of what I do. Okay, so please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. And pray for our finances. Pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. They're all rescues. Keep praying for Chief for healing and be of a sound mind and stop mourning over Yafa. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem and better videos. And please hit the thumbs up button if you don't mind. It takes 2 seconds. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. Thanks. Whoops, I thought I'm out. There we go.